Hey guys, so I grew up in the digital era and I'm certainly not an expert on tube gear, but I have managed to learn a thing or two from some experts in the field of audio about tube gear. So for those of you guys that might be or might have grown up in the digital in the box era just like me and are wondering, like tube gear, what the F, where do I start? I figured that I would share some of the information that I've collected over the years with you guys today. So one noob to another, here we go. Okay, so first of all, number one, tubes amplify. So on the most basic level, that's exactly what they do. They amplify electricity, and before the introduction of transistors into the market in the 1950s, vacuum tubes were actually used in electronic amplifiers. So in audio, vacuum tubes tend to lend a characteristic sounds when they're used as an audio amplifier, and they're often used to smooth harsh audio. Okay, so number two, tubes inside a piece of gear does not always mean that you'll get a characteristic tube sound. So tubes can be paired with many other components within any single piece of gear. So your equipment's gear and circuit design can have a huge impact on the sound, and it can actually override that characteristic tube sound. So that brings us to number three, which is that tubes can make your audio sound warm, but they can also alter your audio in other ways. So did you know, for example, that tubes themselves can compress the audio, and it's more subtle than running an actual compressor on a sound. So they can shape the sound wave, and they can add noise and distortion. Okay, so second to last is number four, which is probably obvious to some of you guys, since it's one of the first things we tend to learn when we're working with tube gear, but it's that you need to actually warm up your tubes. So it's really important to remember that tubes actually take some time to warm up, and guitarists often know this because tube amps are very common with guitarists, but it's important to know this as an engineer too. So all tube gear, whether it's a microphone, compressor, EQ, etc., will need a warm-up phase when you first turn it on, and as the tubes warm up, they actually increase in temperature, and they need that time to warm up so they can become stable. So before they're warmed up completely, tubes can actually give you fluctuating outputs and mess with your sound. So to be sure that your tube gear is sufficiently warmed up, you need to plug it in at the beginning of your setup usually, and give it a good 10 to 15 minutes to warm up. On the other hand, it's also good to let them cool down, because especially before you're moving the gear around, hot tubes are said to be more fragile than cooled ones. So it's also important to note that extreme temperatures are said to interfere with tube performance. So finally, that brings us to number five, and this one is similar to number four, and it's don't leave your tube gear on for too long. No, I don't have personal experience with this, but I have heard that if you leave your tube gear running for too long, they actually fatigue and wear down, and this will change your sound, obviously. So make sure to power down your tube gear if you're not using it for a while. And the manual for your specific gear should recommend how often you should let it take a break to cool down the tubes. So you should definitely check that, and I mean, you should always read the manual anyway when you get a new piece of gear, right? You might feel like a nerd, but you'll be a more informed user, so there's that, right? So that's it. I hope this helped some of you guys, and I'd love to learn more about audio with you guys, so let's talk about it in the comments below. All right, and for today's question, what's your favorite piece of tube gear and why? So let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, please hit the little like button on the video, please share the video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys about audio stuff on this channel. So I'm going to be coming out with new videos every other Wednesday, and thank you for watching. Okay.